Hello and welcome to BizNation, your home for micro and small business help. Join us as we unpack all the pain points in starting or running your small business. If you're looking for support in business, join us on Facebook, Micro and Small Business Support Group. Your host, Kerry Zarb, brings you discussions, interviews, and many hints and tips to get you all set in your business. So sit back and enjoy as we launch into today's episode.
On this episode, we have Louise Delaney from CashFlowsForYou. Louise is originally from country Victoria and made the move to warmer climate and now resides in Brisbane. Louise has over 10 years' experience, runs 2 businesses and has 2 teenagers to keep her on her toes, and not forgetting her border collie Fizz. Louise and I connected on Facebook and instantly bonded like long-lost friends. We both share the passion for small business finances and also making solutions easy for business owners. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. We've got a lot of common ground because we love our numbers. We are like 2 nerdy ladies, 2 peas in a pod. We get together and I'm sure that this episode is going to be awesome. So welcome to the show, Louise.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Great to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, Louise, you're quite busy, as I said in the intro, and you're just really trying to master many things and juggling all those balls and keeping everything going in your life. But tell us a little bit more about CashFlowsForYou. Tell us, for the listeners, what's it all about? Just give us a bit of an intro to the business.
Yeah, definitely. Well, CashFlowsForYou started as a byproduct of my other business, which is an immigration law business, that I went into and, as a business owner, not as a lawyer, and thought I could do it better than somebody else. And so did my partner at the time, who was a lawyer. And it quickly became apparent that there was something missing in running our business. And to cut a long story short, it was cash flow forecasting. So I started doing it in my business as the third financial report, if you like. I don't have an accounting degree or taught myself MYOB. So started doing this cash flow forecasting because in my main business, I couldn't see what was coming up ahead of me. I would stress about bills. I would worry about paying wages, just like the day before wages were due, even though it was only 4 team members, the commitment you have to those people and their families to make sure you've got enough money to pay them.
Yeah.
So it was a juggling act and it caused stress and all the rest of it. So I started approaching bookkeepers and accountants and asking them what it was that I needed and didn't get I don't know whether I wasn't articulating it correctly or whether it just wasn't something that was on offer at the time. So I put something together myself and presented it to my accountant, and he said, "That's brilliant. I'll do that for you for $1,500 extra a month. I can do your weekly cash flow forecasting." So I thought, bugger that, I've just created it myself. So I started doing it in my business, and all it simply is a tool that shows me what bills are going out of my business, what money is coming into my business, and what's the bit that's left over. I then started working with a business coach, started educating myself a little bit on some of the Keith Cunningham books, also the Mike Michalowicz Profit First, even our local Victorian guy that did Barefoot Investor.
Oh, yeah.
And it was all about getting ahead of your cash.
Yep.
In all those things, knowing what your numbers are and getting ahead of them. So that's how it formed. Mm-hmm. And I use it every day, every week now. And even in the middle of COVID, I was able to see, okay, I've got this much coming in, I've got this much going out. I can last this amount of time before I have to reduce my staff numbers or hours. That was before JobKeeper. It was just a really clear map of the cash that's in and out of my business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think for a lot of business owners, they just don't know where they sit like that, to have this unknown space and to go to bed of a night time and actually be stressing about that. And yeah, it's and it becomes fear of the unknown as well. Like if we don't know where we're positioned and, of course, both of us loving the numbers and loving these budgets and forecast spaces, then like what does that look like for a small business owner? So I guess, like my question first up for those listening, where is the cash in the business? Where is it? And that's something that I think a lot of small business owners don't know and need to know. But where do you see it in a small business?
Yeah, great question, really. And every business is different, but I see it, well, I see it in the numbers, and instantly you can see where your cash is and what you have to do to get more. And really, that, everyone talks about cash is king, you know, cash is oxygen for your business and all this sort of thing, but it's really the foundation. I mean, when we go into business, we go in for probably more money, more time, more flexibility to change the world, to do something we love.
Yeah.
We don't, that's why we go into business generally. But if you haven't got your cash sorted out, you can't really make profit.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the foundation for all businesses to have their cash sorted out, money coming in, money going out, and the bit that's left over at the end.
Definitely. And the biggest thing that I see, because I'm in the bookkeeping space, so I completely relate to what you're saying, is that businesses sometimes are making decisions, like critical decisions in their business, when they don't even know where they sit. Like I was actually chatting with a client the other day and they were talking about moving from a home office to, renting an office. And they said to me, like, what do you suggest? And I'm like, well, let's get across the numbers first before you start making any kind of moves. And especially now, like as we know with COVID times, a lot of things are still uncertain. But first and foremost, regardless of any, timeline or whatever's going on in the world, if you don't know what your numbers are and you don't know where your cash sits, you can't make those decisions. Like it'd be crazy to make a decision just based on a want or what you think is a need for your business, but you don't know where your cash is to back it up,
Yeah, and that's fear. That creates fear and the wrong decisions. You talk about the office move. I've even used it for an office move. I was planning to move office. I thought it would be good, get a new office space. And then looked at my numbers. I had team away, so less ability to have cash coming in. I then worked out the cost to move an office and went, oh, hang on, we're just starting to get our cash savings, if you want to call it, looking positive. And then I'm going to go and whip some out just to move office because I feel that an office move is a good thing.
Yeah.
So straight away I went, right, not a good time. Let's plan it for another time.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some other benefits of managing your cash flow?
Well, apart from the being able to sleep at night and stress less, the decision making, it's written. Once you get your cash flow weekly, I do it weekly, sorted out and set up, it doesn't take very long at all. And then you can also use it to see whether your expenses are too high, whether there's anything you can cut, whether someone's double charging you, it's really obvious, it really pans out very quickly. It also creates great peace between partners, whether that's a couple in business or business partners of any sort, to have your cash flow sorted out and a plan of what you're going to do with your cash takes a lot of those arguments and issues about where the cash is going, and growth. It's like when we were kids, we start saving money and then all of a sudden you don't want to spend your money. Well, some of us actually, not all of us. And it's the same in business. You feel wealthy if you've got cash in your business. it's like having $100 in your wallet, and lots of the professionals talk about that. So your confidence as a business owner is also a benefit and allows you to focus on the stuff that you probably love more in your business, the magic that you started the business for. Bonuses, you can pay yourself a bonus and you can take a holiday. So like I could go on for hours about the benefits of cash flow. I can't see any negatives except for the little bit of time that it takes you to get it set up. To me, that's the only the only negative to having weekly cash flow forecasting. And, you know, like everything, once you get past that initial bit, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you recommend weekly cash flow, kind of, you know, keeping your finger right on the pulse as far as the financials are concerned. What about those in business that go, you know what, weekly is just too much for me? Would you think monthly would still be okay?
Yeah, monthly's okay, definitely. And if you were trying to plan it out for a longer period of time, like I generally do 13 weeks because it covers your BAS and your super and things like that. But if you wanted to do it, you know, you could do it out for, you know, 20 weeks, but really longer than that, I would say monthly. And the thing is also, the way I do it is unlike a bookkeeper and accountant, I don't put it into all the specific general ledger codes. I just group the transactions, and, you know, your listeners can group their own transactions. A marketing spend's a marketing spend for something like this. So you don't have to make it as complicated as your general ledger.
Mm. Yeah, no, that makes sense also. And I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of small business owners, and probably why they don't get on board with something like this. They think it's very detailed. They think that there's so much to it, and probably, you know, as much as they have that element of fear of not knowing where their cash is, they've got that other layer of fear of, oh, well, what do I have to do, and how much time do I have to spend on this? And, you know, like sitting there crunching numbers or something to them would be quite daunting, you know. So yeah.
And it's great too, because it makes you more aware of your spend in your business. Like we'd all love to pay for our insurances right up front and get the thing out of the way, or your work cover, or, you know, whatever it is, get it all out of the way early. But obviously from a cash flow perspective, unless you're in a really healthy position, that's going to be tough to do. So spacing it out over weeks or months, and then the excitement comes when that finishes, those payments finished, and you've paid that off and you're still cash flow positive.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with that. I think a lot of business owners probably, and I'm sure a lot do, take advantage of little payment plan options and installments and that kind of thing, and whatever. But I think a lot of them, you're right, it's very tempting just to pay it and just to get it out of the way. And that feels good too. So we want to do that, but we've got to have that forecast, and we've got to have that projection of what that's going to do to our cash flow now versus having those monthly payments and those reoccurring transactions and paying it off slowly over time. So I guess another question I've got is, how do we use it in our business? Like, what, as much as cash flow, we both know it's you know, hugely positive, and certainly something that we both recommend to small business owners, but how do we use it? How do we bring this together?
Yeah, okay. So like it's great. One of my clients, actually, she has a executive assistant who pays all her bills, and although she's not responsible for the money coming into the business, she's responsible for the money going out of the business. So she uses the cash flow forecast daily to see what's scheduled, weekly, to see what's scheduled, and if there's a new invoice due or potential new spend, where can we slot that into our cash flow? So it shows you when you've got peaks and troughs in your cash coming in and your cash going out. You can manage your payments a lot easier. Just to have that visibility gives you the power to make the decision of, you know, when you want to purchase something, do I go and do it all at once, or do I spread it out, or is the 15th of the month smarter than the 12th? You know, it depends on your own business. So to bring it into your business, using it, I use it at the start of the week. I look at the week ahead. okay, so I've got those bills coming out, great, and I should have this much left over. And then I'll look at it for the next week.
Yeah. Very good. And you're right in those extra spends. Like we all have, little things. It might be a new computer, or it could be, you want to upgrade your phone, or, all those little things that come into business life. It might even be something like, purchasing a new company vehicle, and, what do those monthly repayments look like? And, can I afford that? And, remembering as well that that's a long-term investment. So that's a massive kind of thing to take on. But yeah, I just can't even imagine. And I know there's plenty that don't, but I just can't imagine not knowing. And that's, built within me. And I know on my side of the world that, it's not a scary process. But I think that's one thing that we probably need to really instill in the listeners, that it's not scary. Don't be afraid of it. It's actually a good thing. And once you've done it, later you'll be like, why did I not do this sooner? Like, it's just hugely benefit. Yeah.
And it's not too late to start.
Yeah.
That's just get started. And it's interesting you say that you understand the benefits, with your financial background. A lot of bookkeepers and accountants don't do this for business owners, surprisingly. So well done that you do. Yeah, and a lot don't. I don't know whether I'm not sure if it's, a lot do 12 monthly, but I find there's no real appetite for bookkeepers or accountants, in my experience, to take on a weekly cash flow forecasting.
Okay, that's interesting. I would have thought that was the norm.
Yeah, no, which is probably why I've had so much success in offering this to, small business owners. It's not a huge burden on, the costs of an accountant. It should reduce any accountancy fees because you'd be more organised. You can borrow money from it. You go to the bank with your cash flow forecast, and straight away you're up there in an organised business.
Yeah.
So there's lots of benefits to it, and not just for people with finance or accounting backgrounds, because that's not certainly where my background is. It was purely as a business owner, and it's for business owners.
So, Louise, what are your top tips for business owners that are listening right now? What's the top tips so that they can get their cash flow under control?
Okay, so get started. Have a look at your bank account, your business bank accounts, and write down your credit or money coming into your bank account for the last week that was, and the money that went out last week. And I don't care if you put it on a piece of paper or in a spreadsheet, and calculate the difference between the top and the bottom, and that will give you your deficit.
Yep.
But really my top tips would be get started, commit to it, get in the right mind frame, because this really will change your life. and once you get in the right mind frame, it's pretty easy to just capture your transactions out of your bank account, the money coming in, the money going out, and the difference is your cash flow position.
Yep, exactly. Agreed. And I can't stress enough, the getting started is probably the hardest part for all business owners, those that kind of ignore their cash and kind of, put their bank statement back in the drawer every time it turns up, or if it's on their email, they just kind of file it away. So yeah, I can't stress enough, just get started. It's not a space to be feared, I don't think at all, and certainly beneficial to the business, to the owner, and their peace of mind. Like, let's be honest, it's all about, we want to run our businesses confidently, and I think one of the things that helps us do that is to understand our cash position and understand our finances. So yeah, awesome.
And you can only wing it for so long.
Oh,
For
sure.
We all stick our head in the sand because we think it'll be right, and that's great about the human nature that we do that, but it won't sustain you. And if you're wanting to grow, this is the obvious place to look to see when the right time to employ people, whether that's a casual, how much to pay them. I use it even to work out my margins on, somebody employing somebody, compared to the cost of what you can charge out their service or sell the product for. So it's your margins. It allows you to make decisions on how much you sell something for, and how many fingers have touched it in your business, what margin you need. So it's much more than just a job for bookkeepers or accountants.
Yeah, definitely. I've got an interesting question for you that's not related to cash flow, and I ask all of my guests, so I'm glad you're sitting down. What is your positive takeaway from COVID-19? It's been a pretty crappy time for businesses, we have to admit. It's been pretty ordinary, but you're a business owner, so what is your positive?
So I have quite a few. Being in the legal space, I think it's fantastic because more law firms need to be a bit more flexible and in tune with what their clients want.
Yep.
So I think that the people being forced to rethink their business model is great. And I love the fact that now people are focusing more on what their clients want.
Yep.
What people want, not just their clients. And I notice on social media and everywhere, everyone's being helpful. But that's fantastic. Why did it take a pandemic to get us to all just be helpful rather than sales?
Yeah, I agree with that. The human to human contact, although we're all socially distanced and a lot of it's happening online and there's so much more activity on social media, I agree with that. I think the human to human contact has been reborn and it's really taken a forefront. And you're right, everybody's been super helpful. I think more people have been grateful. I think it's been amazing myself. And not, to obviously take away from those in small business that are struggling and those that have faced massive challenges. But I agree with you. I think, social media wise and making connections, like you and I have connected over COVID. And I think that's been amazing. That wouldn't have happened, I think, without COVID. And I know myself, I've made many new connections on the back of COVID and heard good and bad stories in that space as well. So awesome.
Yeah, we've stopped chasing our tail a bit on the jobs that really weren't that important in the first place.
Yeah, refocusing our priorities, definitely.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Great. So Louise, for our listeners, and I'll pop these into the show notes, but where can we find you?
Okay, easy. You can, I've got a website that's only recently relaunched because I built the first one myself, which was a bit of a hack, unlike you, Kerry, who's very good at it. So my website is www.cashflowsforyou.com.au, or my email is louise@cashflowsforyou.com.au. And, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, all those key elements, but nothing wrong with dropping me an email. I love to talk to people on Zoom, and I've got a few cool downloads that I'll share with you that people can use themselves to get started. But happy to talk to anybody at any time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been amazing, and I think we've hopefully opened some eyes to at least a couple of business owners about cash flow and how important it is in their business. I'm a huge advocate, obviously, and it was great to connect. Thanks, Louise.
Thanks for having me. Thanks heaps.
Thanks for tuning in to the BizNation podcast, your home for small business help. If you're looking for support in business, join us on Facebook, Micro and Small Business Support Group. You can find the link on our website, biznation.com.au. Tune into future episodes for more discussions, interviews, and many hints and tips to get you all set in your business. Until next time, stay safe, stay well.